Hey everybody, so today we're going to go over the 3 basic submissions that I think are best for self-defense for people who are just starting Jiu-Jitsu. Now, what is the kind of criteria for these submissions is that they're submissions that you can do in gi and no gi, so they're not relying on any kind of gripping. For the most part, with the exception of one of them, you can do them from the feet, right? So I can land these submissions while we're standing, and I can also use them from the bottom and top position in most of the positions in Jiu-Jitsu, okay? So they're most kind of like versatile moves that we can think of, okay? So the first one, and there's going to be a lot more ways that you can use this that I'm not going to show because there's a million different ways. I'm just going to show you kind of one thing from each area. So the first one is going to be a kimura. Now the kimura is really, really good because you can get this from literally any position in Jiu-Jitsu, and it's not always going to lead to the submission, but it's going to give you really good control. It's going to give you the ability to rotate your partner, to go from an offensive to defensive, or sorry, rather from defensive to offensive. So let me show you an example of that, okay? So Jess is going to start with a body lock on my back. Okay, so a lot of times your partner gets here, and from here Jess is looking to lift me, go for the suplex. She's looking to pull me down and take my back from here, or she's looking to drag me, get my hands on the mat and take the back, okay? So you see here, Jess has her hands locked. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go for the bottom hand. So in this case, if you guys can see here, Jess's hand here is this one here, the bottom hand. The top hand is gonna be hard to pry because it's supported by that bottom hand here. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cup Jess's wrist here. Now I'm going to walk my hips out and get heavy to the floor. My left hand here is going to rotate around and I'm going to lock my own wrist. Now from this position I can break that grip so our hands are no longer connected. Now from here, you see some people will go over top here and go for throws like judo style. If you watch Nick Diaz back in the day, he would always do that and hit big throws in the UFC there. But what I like to do from here is to extend and use this to turn my partner. Now from here, I can block the hip and I can try and finish it from here. I can put my foot in the middle, sit back and go for the overhead throw. Or like I said, sometimes we don't want to use this as a submission, right? Because if I just go like this, Jess can follow me, right? So it's hard to stop the body from moving. What I can do though is I can use this to drop down and change into a wrestling attack from here, okay? So again, from the top position, Jess has here, I attack the bottom hand, I lock, I use that to break. I can block and try and finish that. I can throw over, or I can turn it and use it to change it into a takedown. Okay, the second way we can use this here is from our back. Okay, so an example of using this from here would be going from my closed guard. Anytime Jess puts her hands on the mat, I have access to a kimura. So an easy way to do this is just, if her partner's framing on your stomach here, is to lift my hips, come up underneath, like prayer hands, pull in, and get those hands to post on the mat. Once those hands are posted, I'm gonna isolate one of her arms. So this arm is away from the rest of her body. Sit up to my bottom elbow here. Jess is gonna keep this hand flat on the mat here. Right from here, I'm gonna grab that wrist, lock my hands, drop back. Right, and now it's just a matter of turning my body and getting this thumb to come up and touch that ear, okay? Now I can even turn more with my body to make sure that's even tighter, okay? From the top, we can also use this. Let's go from side control for me. So with top, we can use this from a side control position here, okay? If my partner gets an underhook, right, what a lot of times I like to do is I'll step over my partner's head. Scoot this way for me. I'll step over my partner's head here. Boom, clamp, trap the arm, and then finish the submission this way from here. Okay, so lots of ways we can finish that kimura, making it one of the better self-defense positions, okay? Next one that we have is gonna be back up from our feet again. We're gonna go for the guillotine, okay? Now the guillotine is probably my favorite submission. We can use it from almost any position, okay? So let's say we're starting here. I can do this if Jess changes her levels and tries to take me down. The neck is almost always available anytime it's on the side of the hip. What I like to do personally is I like to go for it. So I go a single collar tie on the head, right? I just turn and I go right over top. Now from here, I'm connecting my hands like this, dropping my elbow to the floor and trying to bring my hands up in between that shoulder, okay? So I snap down, drop my elbow, hands up in between the shoulder. Now I'm bringing my feet parallel, leaning back and getting the submission, okay? If we're down in closed guard, one way this works really, really well is if I go for it off of a hip bump. And this works for the kimura as well too. So Jess is postured back up, right, I'm gonna sit up, get up onto my hand, and sit on my partner's lap. Now what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bump to roll them over, but sometimes that doesn't work. My hand's on the back, so all I do is I scoop around the back of the head, and I pull them back into my guard. Now again, here my elbow is real high, so I gotta drop that elbow, bring the hands up, fall on my back, and finish the position. Notice I'm always blocking that shoulder with my hands, okay? From the top, so let's say Jess is on her back. Now this isn't like necessarily like a self-defense position, but it's my favorite position to get this from, is when Jess is sitting in closer, she's on her back, and I step into my position here. If Jess has both of her hands down, like she's grabbing my legs, what I'll always do is I'll go over the head and I'll roll through. Okay, once I roll through, I'm on the neck now, I roll back up and over in the mount. Hand on the mat, and then finish the submission from here. But you can do it simpler ways, right? I can just be in side control here. If I end up on top of my partner and I get an underhook, anytime I can pull them onto their side, I can just go over that head for the guillotine, slide in the mount, and then from here I finish it one-handed by just squeezing. Okay. The final position, right, is going to be the omoplata. This one you can't really do from standing, but we can do it from our back, and it's pretty easy to do. Okay, so from my back, anytime I can get a kimura, I can usually get an omoplata as well. So if I get Jess's hands to the floor, and I've kind of isolated one of her arms to the side, right, so I'm trapping this arm, all I have to do is use my knee here to wedge the back, and then to escape so I can get this knee onto the front of her shoulder. So I can go with an overhook. Sometimes I can just push, but I hip escape away. I bring the top knee here, foot goes along the back, and then the bottom knee here, so I'm pinching this shoulder. Now all I have to do is make sure that her thumb stays facing down towards her hip, and her arm stays into my top side pocket where that would be. If the arm ends up over here, I can't do it. So I have to make sure this stays here. I also use this other hand to support the elbow to make sure everything stays in place. Now, I pass my leg over the face, I turn my back to the floor, and I kick, sit up, grabbing over my partner's back till I get up to my bottom here. Now to finish this submission, all I have to do is make sure I control the arm, right? Which usually if I have my knees pinched tight enough, which I do by turning them in, right? Then I don't really need to use the hand to support. But if you need to hold for a second, you can hold until you get your legs in the right spot. Is you put your hand on the floor and then you hip escape to the side, breaks your partner down with you. Now from here, I just drive my knee to the floor and I sit up. And partner taps, okay? Now, I can also do this from the top, okay? So from the top, this is gonna look a little bit confusing, but it's actually pretty simple, okay? So my partner's head's gonna be here, and my partner goes for an underhook. This happens a lot, where if you end up on top, someone gets that underhook and they feel like they can get up to this bottom elbow here, and they can start to come up, okay? So whenever somebody, go back down for me, whenever somebody gets that underhook and gets up to their side, right, one thing that I can do, I can go for the guillotine, I can turn, I can go for the kimura. Personally, I like to lean, pull this arm, and I step my leg up and over here. Now, there's a submission here called a monoplata, but what I like to do is I like to step over to the side, okay, to this position. Now, once I have this position here, I'm gonna come back, but I'm gonna drag my partner with me. So now I've rolled her back into our original position. Now it's just a matter of scooting, breaking the posture, and then sitting up and forward, okay? This hand too, you can also use this to dig under your partner's head. Jess has her head flat on the floor now, so I'm not gonna do that, we're gonna be the partner. So I'm gonna drive my knees to the floor and come up.
Tap.
Partner gets the tap there. So guys, those are gonna be your three, I think, best bets for submissions when you're starting out that are really good for whatever kind of grappling training you're doing, whether that's jiu-jitsu, gi jitsu, no gi jiu-jitsu, but also things like MMA training, okay? So we'll see you guys next time.